through the whole share of Chaim Mitkin. I didn't
Well,
even know it.
well. That's why that's why we record these things.
Right.
You can go back and listen to the end.
At the end, I woke up when I heard Chaim Mitkin says, "Thank you, Ira." I said, "Oh shit."
Can I know, Ira? We heard you snoring. It was very relaxing.
No,
yeah, it was good. Okay, so Hilchos Shabbos 271, paragraph 6, Reish Ayin Aleph Vav, is where we left off yesterday. Im Gomar Su'dasei, so a person finishes his meal. V'kideish hayom, and he made kiddush. Keidim shebeirach birchas hamazon, before he says he benches, before he says birchas hamazon, the blessing after the meal. Mevarich birchas hamazon al keser rishon. So he makes. So how should he do it? He should make. In other words, we're still talking about. I think he'll clarify the Mishna Berura, I think, in a minute. But I believe we're still talking about where he's. In other words, he was eating before
Erev Shabbos. Yeah.
He's eating before Shabbos, and it comes Shabbos, and it's time for Kiddush. So how do you do it? So he does the benching on 1 cup, which there are poskim who are very makbid, they're very particular that when that there's a requirement when you do benching that you do it with a cup, especially if when you have 3 people. Anyways, when you have a mezum and 3 people, that you should use a cup of wine. And then he says the kiddush on a 2nd cup. And he has to mention Shabbos in benching, right? Even though he didn't do Kiddush yet, because we just said the first cup he's going to do is benching. So he's going to bench first, and then he's going to make Kiddush on the 2nd cup. Now, even though the Kiddush is coming after the benching, after the blessings, after the meal, he will still say Ritzei. He will still say these Shabbos additions in benching. Let's look at the Mishnah Berura. Im Gomer Sudase, if he finished his meal of Mairi, and we're talking about Gamkein Shenot al Yod of L'mayim Achareinim, that he, meaning, what does it mean he finished his meal? It means he already also did Mayim Achareinim, which means he already did, well, I guess by this point there would be no Tachman, because it's at that point of Shabbos. So Shabbos coming in, so he said share milas or whatever, and he does the washing of the fingers before benching. The kaidim shehisla birchas hamazon, and before he began birchas hamazon, Rosh kiddush olav hayoim. He sees that, in other words, this is that the time came. The day became holy on him. So we're not talking about that he accepted Shabbos early on himself. We're talking about it became Shabbos, which means, like we said before, that as soon as it becomes Shabbos, you have you now have an obligation to make Kiddush as soon as possible. In this situation, he holds that you would first, and this comes from, let me just see, from the Magen Avram and other Achreinim, and also the Gira. So he would so first he would say benching on the first cup, that since he washed hands, so he has to and he ate, so now he has to, so he has a chiyuv, he has an obligation to do the after meal blessing. Aval im loy natal yodov, but if he did not wash his hands, so all opinions at this point would hold that you would put out the cloth and you make kiddush. You don't bench because you didn't wash hands. However, like we said before, he would not, since he's in the middle of a meal, he would not say the Bor Piagofen on the wine if he had wine during that meal already. So we're talking about he's sitting down, he's already eating a meal. If he had one, so if he ate bread, then the first, this is the first opinion, because because soon there's going to be another opinion brought down in there as well. But this first opinion brought down in the there's actually an opinion brought another in the Mechaber also. So the first opinion in the Mechaber is that if you're in the middle of, you washed and you're in the middle of eating a Suda, so then that's what you do. First you bench on a cup of wine, then you make Kiddush on another cup of wine, and you say Ritzei. And the Mishnah Berura points out this is talking specifically when he washed. If he didn't wash, then he wouldn't do that. He would just put a cloth to cover and make Kiddush. And if he had wine during this meal, even though he didn't have bread, if he would have had wine, that means he made Hagofen, then he would not make another Beir Pi Hagofen. Rather, he would go straight into the benching part. Like we said before in the fourth sif. And even if he said, right, Havlon v'nevarich, Rabbi Simon Welton benchen, right, which shows that he has an intent to
start benching.
Start benching. Gam kein mekadosh tchila, he would still make kiddush first. Kevin sheloi not al yodav adayin, because he didn't wash his hands yet. Well, why he's saying Havlon v'nevarich, I don't know, but. But in that situation, like we said before, he would have to make a Beir Pi Hagofen. He would have to make another Hagofen, because since he already mentioned his intent to bench, so therefore he just made an interruption between the original. In other words, he removed his mind from the original bracha Beir Pi Hagofen on the wine. So in that case, the only difference would be that he would make the Beir Pi Hagofen and then Kiddush. Whereas had he not made any such interruption, he would just go use the Beir Pi Hagofen that he made originally, and his Kiddush would start just by the bracha for Shabbos without Beir Pi Hagofen.
Just to bring up a point, I had to look it up quickly to find what the Markel were, because I knew in my head, actually there's a concept to bench over a kais even without a mezumin. The Rosh, the Tur, the Taisvis, the Rashbam, and Rabbeinu Yaina all require you to bench over wine even by yourself. And in fact, some say, Baklal, one shouldn't even eat bread if they don't have wine with which to bench over. So, and the reason why they say that is because the Gemara, when it talks about benching over wine, does not talk about it in context of a mezumin. It doesn't say mezumin. It says you should bench over a case of wine. So they hold that. Now today, practically, our minhag is not so much to do that. Our minhag is usually we do it over when we have a mezumin, when we have three. And there are many that aren't even machmir, even when you have a mezumin, they're not so careful to do it. But the Hayayim Yaim, the Rebbe says in Hayayim Yaim that one should always be benching over wine when you have a mezumin. And I think there's even places, I don't remember right now, and I didn't have enough time to quickly look it up. But I think there's even places where the Rebbe says, where the Rebbe might say to bench even without a mezumin on wine. But I couldn't find that. But it's rattling around in my head. Maybe I confused the two between the opinions that say to do it by themselves and the Rebbe. But
right. But certainly when you make a mezumin, it's even in the whatever it is, it's a good thing to mention wine.
Our minhag is when you're benching with a mezumin, you should be over wine. But there's definitely opinions that say even by yourself that the clout to be benching over wine. So at least a pure shot of the mechaber doesn't necessarily mean just with a mezumin.
Right. Note if wine interrupts you on a work day, grape juice is fine as well. We're including grape juice.
Grape juice is hagafen. Grape juice is hagafen.
That also, if you say wine means wine and the grape juice.
Right.
Okay, so now next al case sheni. So we say he makes of the first So first he will bench with a cup, and then on a second cup he will make kiddush. But he should not do them on both on the same cup. The ein oisin mitzvahs chavilis that you don't make the mitzvahs into packages, meaning you don't roll the two mitzvahs in one. Rather, if you have two mitzvahs, you would use two separate cups of wine rather than roll them into one. And just by the way, another little bit of a reason, as we'll see later, is that you, when you make kiddush, you should make it on a cup that's not pugum, which generally means nobody drank from it, but also it means part of it is also that nobody made a bracha on the cup already, so you wouldn't make it on the same. But perhaps if you would package it together the way he's saying not to, I guess you wouldn't make the hagafen twice. In that case, I guess the havamina is that you would bench on the cup, not make hagafen after, make kiddush and then make one hagafen, avoiding the issue of pugum, maybe something like that. In either case, we don't do it because you don't make them into packages, but rather you do each mitzvah, you give it its own due effort and respect and attention. Shel Shabbos, so you would add the inclusions of Shabbos and benching. Does linan basar hashta, that we go by now, we go by what it is, by what the situation is right now. Kivon de b'shoshehu mevarich kvar niskadish hayim, since at the time he's benching, the day already became holy. Mikol makim. However, as opposed to the usual situation, and here everybody agrees that if you forgot to say Ritzei, if you forgot the Shabbos additions, you would not go back and bench again. By the way, I don't remember where I don't remember where I saw this. But I feel like in other places, maybe it's not the Mishna, maybe it's the Magen Avram that's mistapik here, that he's uncertain whether you go after the beginning or after the end. There's a whole conversation to that end. But in either case, over here he says that when you're benching, since it's now Shabbos, you add the Shabbos additions. Basar tchilas ha'seuda. So he says in there, right? Am I going too far here? Oh yeah, I went too far. Not because now we're ready in the Ramah. So let's do the Ramah inside. The Ramah inside v'yesh eimrim de eini maskil shel Shabbos, and some say that you do not do the Shabbos additions. The ozlinon basar tchilas ha'seuda. I guess here's that whole conversation, that you go after the beginning of the meal. And since the beginning of the meal, it wasn't Shabbos yet. When you washed and you sat down to eat, it wasn't yet Shabbos. So in that case, the Ramah says that some say that you would not say the Shabbos additions, because it doesn't go by now. V'chein ikar, and the Ramah says this is the main opinion, meaning the Ramah holds by this opinion that you do not do the Shabbos addition. Commission is bar la'el save simin kuf beches, like it's explained before in the end of 188. V'yesh machlekes im yitay mikeish l'brichas hamazon kedem shikadish. And there's a debate amongst Paiskim if you should drink from the cup of brichas hamazon before you make kiddush. Gam im tzarich lech ma'at achar kiddush kedei sheyeh kiddush makom seuda. And there's also a debate whether or not you are required to eat something after the kiddush, because you could say he's already in a makom seuda, he was eating, or no, because now that you made kiddush, you have to have a new seuda that's connected to the kiddush. So that is the subject of debate. Those two things. Into the Mishnah Berura. That the beginning of the meal was still a weekday. It wasn't Shabbos yet. But all this is talking about, even this, what the Ramah is saying, that since the beginning of the meal was before Shabbos, that you wouldn't do the Shabbos additions. This opinion that the Ramah brings and holds by, this is specifically talking when you washed before Shabbos, and you were eating before Shabbos, but you did not continue eating at all from the time it became dark, from when it became Shabbos. However, if you ate a little bit, you continued the Seudah into when it was Shabbos, then everybody agrees that you would say the Shabbos additions. This comes from Magen Avram and other Acharinim.
I got a quick question. I don't understand how, if it's a Friday night, how could you start the meal before Shabbos? I mean, you're still going to do Mincha and Mari.
He didn't. So first of all, he didn't start the meal. He started a meal. In other words, this wasn't the Shabbos meal. He was.
This is after Mari or before Mari?
This is before, but didn't get dark yet.
Okay, so before Mari, after Mincha, before Mari.
That's actually a whole interesting conversation, because in this case, he doesn't mention whether he davened Ma'ariv. Maybe he'll daven Ma'ariv after altogether, because now that he's there and he has wine, he has to make Kiddush. So he has to make Kiddush, and then he'll do Ma'ariv afterwards.
Well, the point is, he started to eat before sundown, obviously, right?
Yeah, he started, but in other words, he wasn't eating the Shabbos meal.
But my question is, if there is Shabbos, why would somebody wash?
Well, okay, so we could use the example that Yehuda Leib brought up yesterday. Is, let's say that Purim was on a Friday, and you have to have a Purim meal.
If it was Purim, that's a different story. But on a regular...
so that's just one example. But let's say for whatever reason, let's say it was a bris, and it was later in the day on the Moil, as his plane was delayed, and they had to make it in the afternoon. It's the 8th day, so you have to try to make it on the 8th day. Then it was the afternoon. And there's a lot of situations where.
So I wedding
late in the day. Okay, yeah, all right.
Usually, you're right, Ira. You're right in the fact that in general, one is not supposed to wash. There's customs of people who, after Chatzais, after midday on Friday, they do not wash, because they don't want to be full. They don't want to eat a meal before the Shabbos meal. They want to save their appetite, and that all comes from Shulchan Aruch talking about that. Now, one shouldn't really have a big meal too late in the afternoon, because they want to have an appetite and such, and also you want to get ready for Shabbos, so you shouldn't be distracted by doing other things.
I can understand it was Purim or something else, but on regular Shabbos,
so that's what I'm saying. You're right. On average, that's what I'm saying. You're right. As on average, this situation doesn't come up. But there are plenty of examples where this could still happen, like we said, with regards to Purim or a bris or a wedding, Sheva Brachas, many other important occasions where you.
Yeah, I mean, you had a pidyon. If you have a pidyon ben, by the time the plane can make it, it's in the afternoon.
Like we also said, we also just had Yom Tif Erev Shabbos, where let's say, especially it's Yom Tif, it's Shavuos. It's a late day. It's late summer. By the time you finish davening and you get home and you have a long walk from shul, let's say, like my in-laws.
I wasn't thinking about all the variables. I was just basing it on a regular Friday afternoon.
Right now, in theory, here he could be talking about also. It's also possible that I'm just like a very big putz, and even though I'm not supposed to. Whatever, I sat down. That's also a possibility here. In other words, those are possibilities that we were talking about now, are possibilities when validly you would be doing it, and it's not even because you're not really doing what you're supposed to. But you know what? It could be also, and we see many times the Shulchan Aruch he says even if you did what you did something not the ideal way, he's still going to tell you, okay, but what do I got to do now? So let's say I forgot, right? I have a bad memory. I can't remember the halach, and I forgot that you're not supposed to wash so close to dark, and maybe I didn't even know what time it is. and I sat and I washed and I just whatever, I messed up over there. Okay,
right.
but I still have to know, just because I messed up, it doesn't mean now I should keep doing it the wrong way. So that's also an option. It's just I did it the wrong way, but now I need to know, what do I do now?
Right.
There's also a difference between illegal and just not the best thing to do or slightly improper. We're not saying that it's illegal to wash for a meal on Friday afternoon. It's not illegal. It's not against halacha. The halacha recommends and encourages not to, but it's totally legal. You're allowed to sit down and have and wash for hamaitzi. It's not against halacha. So even so much as that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Anywho.
Got it.
So continuing, im yitim, right? The Rama was saying that there is that whether he should drink from the first, right? We said he benches he uses 2 cups, one for benching and then a separate one for kiddush. Now the first one that he used for benching, does he drink from it at all? And which the Rama says that's a matter of debate. It's a machlokes. Im yitim the is svidel hod mevarich bei pri agafen v'tayim takef kemay b'chol kleishel b'chazamazon. That some hold that you would make Bayer Pri Agafen, you would make just like you would regularly do after benching, right? You finish depending on your minhag or nar hayisi, whatever your minhag is in benching, and then you say Baruch Atah Hashem, right? Bayer Pri Agafen, and then you drink the wine. So some say you would do exactly that, just like you always do by benching. And it's not considered, right? Because before we said that there's an issue that once it becomes Shabbos, one should not eat or drink before Kiddush. So this opinion holds that it's not considered eating or drinking before Kiddush. Mishum da'akais shayich la'seuda shahaya kaidim chayvas Kiddush, because this cup is it relates to the meal that was before you had the obligation of Kiddush. So therefore, you already had this obligation to bench before you had the obligation to make Kiddush, and therefore you would fulfill your obligation to bench first, make your hagafen, drink your cup like you're supposed to, and now that you've dealt with that obligation that you already had from before Shabbos, now you continue with your obligation that you have on Shabbos.
But then there's always what I always heard of: when in doubt, do without. So if you're
it depends. It depends, because the way it works, the general rule is, when it comes to a Torah obligation, when in doubt, you do it. When it comes to a rabbinical obligation, when in doubt, do without. So a good example of that is, let's say that you have a doubt as to whether a certain doorway needs a mezuzah or not. It's not clear. You would put the mezuzah. Why? Because a mezuzah is a Torah commandment.
Right.
And when you're in doubt, you put the mezuzah. However, you would not say the bracha over the mezuzah, because the bracha over the mezuzah is a rabbinical commandment. And therefore, so you would put the mezuzah but not say the bracha, because in the case of the Torah part of it, you do it. And when it comes to the rabbinical part, you don't do it.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's the self-same mitzvah you're doing, it seems like, but really there's 2 separate things you're doing. One is you're putting up a mezuzah, which is a Torah commandment, and the second thing is you're making a bracha on a mezuzah, which is a rabbinical commandment.
Wow, I think you should be a rabbi. Beautiful.
I'll try one of these days.
That's great. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, and that's a general rule that goes across pretty much all of Shulchan Aruch.
I can't wait to test Rabbi.
Yeah. You want?
I'll test it. You know me.
There's also the general rule that every rule has an exception. So you never.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, like for example, like we had before, right? That
in other words, there's a heter for everything, right? Almost.
Well, I think that the language is more. There's always a yotzim in haklal. There's always an exception from the general. Right. There's always, a scenario. There's usually something, but a general rule.
Sometimes the exception is to the stringent. Right. For example, when it comes to a non-Jew doing work for you on Shabbos, there are certain stringencies that don't follow the rule, and at the same time we see in certain places where hitir chachamim, or that the sages made an exception and made a leniency because for various reasons. But the general rule in a Torah obligation, you do it when there's a doubt. So, for example, if you're not sure if you did this Torah obligation thing, you would go ahead and do it again. On the other hand, when it comes to a rabbinical thing, like a bracha, say, I can't remember if I said a bracha or not,
right?
I would not say the bracha again.
Or if you're not sure what bracha it is, let's say it's a we'll use a banana, which is
that's what I'm saying. So it depends what we're talking about. What kind of doubt? If you're not sure what bracha you still say a bracha. You absolutely need to say a bracha. It's not that you don't say a bracha. You just
bracha is.
What?
What if you're not sure what the? Let's say let's say a raisin. I'm just using off the top of my head. Well, because I have to stop to think. Google what bracha would I need to say on a raisin. So if you don't know and you can't make a call and it's Shabbos, you just don't eat the raisin. Don't even say why.
Well, so there's not eating the raisin. Ira, so I would say, I think this brings up a very good point. What do we mean when we talk about doubt? When we talk about doubt, we're not talking about lack of knowledge of the law. That's something that in general, when the Rabbanim, when they say safek and sveka and Shabbos, doubt of a doubt, and there's different rules, they're not talking about doubt of the law. They're talking about doubt of the scenario where it's impossible to know exactly what is, well, I guess I should say, doubt of the law on my knowledge of the law.
Right.
There can be a doubt where the Gemara and Halachik, the Poskim, couldn't figure out where there's a doubt as to what the Torah means or what exactly God's parameters are, what exactly are the rules here. Sometimes those are the doubts. But just my lack of knowledge is not an excuse. If I get pulled over by a cop and I say, I didn't know there was such a concept as not going over the speed limit, that's not good enough.
Or you can say, boy, officer, am I ever glad to see you?
You can do that.
Yeah,
you can do that.
So yeah. But when it comes to brachas, that's a whole other, maybe that's another shir we'll get to later, in I don't know how many months' time. But and there are rules when you don't know exactly the bracha. Sometimes there's safety brachas. For example, saying shahakal, which is a general term. The word means that God created everything. So sometimes that's a safety bracha. If you don't know exactly what the bracha is, but more often than not, the best thing to do if you don't know what the bracha is, if you're hungry enough, then wash on bread and then have in mind everything, because bread covers everything. So when it comes to something like rice, there's a debate. It's exactly what the bracha is. Right. Whether it's more like a hadama, whether it's more like a grain, like a wheat grain. So do you say mezainos on something like rice, or is it just shahaka? So one of the things by Lubavitch custom is that actually one should really just wash, have a mitzi when you're having rice, or at the very least, if you're not hungry enough to wash, then say a bracha on all the different things that rice could be the bracha. So I say a bracha. At my house, we always have a mezainos. We have some sort of cracker, cookie available. We always have something that's adama, vegetable, and there's always something to drink, a shahako. And by each one, when you're making a bracha on that other thing, I also have in mind, in case, that it should also cover the rice.
Rice after that.
So then I eat the rice. After all three, I'll also have the rice, because on the first three.
I've done
so
that.
So if anything, if I'm eating some sort of fruit, then I'm like, is this a halakha tree? Is it a ha'etz? Or, there's no such thing as a watermelon tree. It's not ha'etz, it's adama. What is this bracha? Am I eating a blueberry? Is this a eitz or adama?
But let's think about you find a deal on Spirit Air, and you can go to San Helm or something in Puerto Rico, wherever it is, so you go. And of course, when you're there's not so many kosher restaurants. So what do? You go to the market and you get, fruits and vegetables, and maybe some of them are unfamiliar. Now, now looking at this thing, you're fairly certain it comes from either a tree, that it's either a fruit or a vegetable, but you're not really sure if the way that this grows is in the way of a melon. Is it a melon or is it a fruit tree? So same thing is okay, but so in the same market there happens to be an apple, and in the same market there happens to be a banana. So you'll do the which a banana is in itself an interesting thing because it's actually from the ground, even though people think it comes from
a banana tree and it's still Hadama.
Right, because it's not a real tree. If you ever look at a banana tree, it's made out of leaves.
Exactly what I was saying. I was saying exactly that. That go find one thing that you know for sure is ha'etz, another thing you know for sure is Hadama, and then eat the thing afterwards. Which, by the way, that's why I brought up blueberries, because you don't even have to get so exotic. Blueberries, a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually a bigger shiloh than people realize. And you'll see on some websites that say brachas, it says ha'etz, and some say hadama. And I did a little bit of research into this, and it seems what it comes down to is actually agriculturally.
I Googled it a long time ago for blueberries.
Wild blueberries. So I'm telling you why. Because wild blueberries grow on a type of plant. The way it's grown, the plant is of the behaviors of what qualifies a ha'etz type of plant, right? Because that's why Hadama has been. It's not tree. It's not fruit or vegetable. That's not the distinction. That's inaccurate. We say that a lot as general terms because it's easier, but it's not actually accurate. There's something that science would call a tree, but it's not a halachik ha'etz. When halachik ha'etz is how it grows and how it survives throughout the year. It doesn't like die down and grow back. It's up and out the whole year. So basically, I'm not an expert in such areas, but what I did find is that basically wild blueberry plants, trees, grow in a way of ha'etz, and domesticated ones, when they've made them into these big blueberry fields, it changed how the plants grow.
Wow.
And many domesticated blueberries grow in a way of hadama. So that's what it comes to the shiloh of, this plant, it changed into a different plant. So it's maybe no longer ha'etz. So it actually is shiloh, every blueberry you get. How do I know how this was grown? I don't know. So it's better if you're eating blueberries to say ha'etz on something else and hadama on something else. But honestly, if you don't have anything else, all you have is blueberries. That's what I thought you were going to say when you're on Spirit Airlines. When you're on the plane, and this is the only fruit they have, let's say, this is the only food available. Everything else is traits. Everything else is shilas. What do? So hadama would be the safer bracha, because in Birchas Hanenin we learn hadama does technically, after the fact, cover ha'etz, because anything that grows on a ha'etz, originally the plant grew from the ground, min ha'adama. So the wording of the hadama bracha does cover ha'etz stuff, but ha'etz does not cover ha'adama. So if you're going to say ha'etz on a blueberry that really is supposed to be hadama, you're going to be in big trouble. So
I don't want to get into the whole new conversation of what b'diavad means, what's considered after the fact, because sometimes even in the first place, if it's if you're in a situation and you don't have options, sometimes that's considered after the fact. That's a whole other. Well, we'll get into that a different time.
But yeah, the kitzur, the whole thing of what means a suffix, what means a doubt. Yeah, it's very important that we learn the laws like we're doing now, because lack of education is not an excuse. We're obligated to educate ourselves. We're obligated to get an education and to learn what we need to do. So but it's just a matter of, so that's why we're learning right now, even in weird situations. What do you mean on a regular Friday? I'm going to shul, I'm making kiddush after davening. But if I find myself in a situation where, I need to know what to do.
So going back to the Ramah, to the Mishnah Berura on the Ramah, so he says that. So he brings down that there's a matter of debate on whether you would drink from the benching cup. So that one opinion would say that you do. Why? Like we said before, because you already had the obligation for benching before it was Shabbos, and therefore you're able to fulfill this obligation. And since you had that obligation before the obligation to make Kiddush came in, so therefore it doesn't apply in this case what we said before, that you should not eat or drink before Kiddush, because you're drinking to fulfill an obligation that you had before that obligation. So you would make after benching, you would make a Beir Pi Hagafen, and you would drink a little bit of you would drink from the wine. But it goes without saying that you would not make another hagafen on the second cup. Since you already made a hagafen on the benching cup, you would have in mind the Hagafen for the second cup, and then when you pick up the second cup, you begin with the bracha Asher Kedishanu, etc. Mekadesh HaShabbos. You go straight into the Shabbos blessing, but you do not make a second Bayer Pi Hagafen. So that's the one opinion. There is the Sevira Lahu, and there are those that hold she'ein tayim imenu mishum de'asad litum kedish kiddush. Others say no. This doesn't make a difference when the obligation came off. Once your obligation for a kiddush comes in, then you can no longer eat or drink until you've made kiddush. Which this is the Magen Avram holds like this. It sounds like the Berura is the first opinion. So automatically, if you can't eat or drink, you can't make a Bayer Pi Hagafen. Right, but rather, what do? You make a Bayer Pi Hagafen on the second cup, the Kiddush cup. Right, you say Hagafen, you say Kiddush, and you drink it. The achar kach sheisa case zeshel b'samazim blei bracha, and after that you drink the cup of benching with no bracha because you already made the Bayer Pi Hagafen. So according to the first opinion, you would say whatever v'hayeshem of tachei, right, or whatever nar yisi if that's your minhag. And then you would say Bayer Pi Hagafen, you would drink from that wine, then you would pick up the second cup, not make a Bayer Pi Hagafen on that, and just make the Kiddush bracha. According to the second opinion, you would say, right, you're holding, by us actually, you're not holding the cup anymore because you put it down by Bnei Yerushalayim. But you make benching on the cup, right? Then after you're done benching, you leave the benching cup, alone, you take the second cup, the Kiddush cup, make Bayer Pi Hagafen having in mind the first cup that benching was on, and you make Kiddush, and you drink from Kiddush, and then you take the cup that you had from benching, and you drink from that also. That's the second opinion. Lechol Ma'at. So we said the second thing that the Ramah brings that is a matter of contention amongst contemporary judges of the time. that's a matter of debate. Was are you required to now eat after Kiddush again? Because you were just having a Seudah. So can you say it's connected to that Seudah? Or would you have to now eat again? The Yesh Emrim, that some say, Kevan Sha'achal Batchila. Some say that since you already ate, this is the Ran going according to the Rif, and it sounds like Taisvis also holds that way. That
Kevan Sha'achal because you have to eat a kazayas.
Well, so some say that since you already ate, though, since you already had a Seudah. Well, yeah, kazayas would be would be what it means by a little bit, probably.
The point is, right, the point is, Kiddush Makim Suda, Kiddush in the place of a meal. Who said that meal has to be after the Kiddush? You made a Kiddush by the meal. There was a meal. You just had a meal. Still at the table. There's still food on the table left. There's still crumbs where you ate.
You're not going back and eating more from that, but you're in a place of Suda. So that's this. So they say that since you already ate, so it's Kiddush in a place of Suda. Now you don't necessarily have to eat more. You made Kiddush in the place of a Seudah. And some say, which is the Rosh, the Einim Nachshav them came Seudah, came in Shahisa Shel Chayil. It's not considered in the place of Seudah because that's a different Seudah. That was a Seudah of the weekdays. It wasn't a Shabbos Seudah. The Tzorich Ata b'Shabbos Lechal Kaponim Ma'at, and you have to at least eat a little bit. Right, like Ira Hakohen says, eat a kazayis now.
It's all about definitions.
Yeah,
sure. It was Kiddush Makim Suda, which you see, by the way, Yesh Emrim, they're not arguing that it wasn't Makim Suda. They're just saying, but hold on, the Suda has to be a Suda Shabbos. That wasn't a Suda Shabbos. That was a Suda weekday. We finished eating, didn't eat on Shabbos. That eating was only a weekday meal, so it has to be Kiddush Makim Suda Shabbos. The first opinion is it doesn't matter what the meal was. It's a meal is a meal, and Kiddush has to be by a meal. Who cares what the meal was?
So basically, the Ran doesn't make a differentiation between the Suda Shabbos and the Suda Chayil, the weekday one and the Shabbos one. He says a Suda is a Suda. Whereas the Rosh makes a differentiation of no. There's a difference. One's a Suda Shabbos, one's a Suda Chayil. It's not the same. It's not the same thing. You have to have Suda Shabbos. So that's the opinions that the Ramah brings down. So those are the two things that there's debate in. Is one of them, do you have to eat again after, and the other one, would you make the hagafen over the benching cup, or would you make the hagafen over the kiddush cup? Anyways, the mechaber continues. V'yesh emrim the af begamar suudase. Some say that even when he finishes his seuda, he would not go ahead and do benching first. Ella paid his smapa, but rather wherever he's holding, in other words, he's sitting there. He finished the meal. You have to bench, right? No, don't bench. Put out nuchala with the food, with the cloth, and a mekadish mevarich hamaitzi, just like you would usually do. Right, you finish your meal, don't bench, make kiddush, wash, eat bread. Or ma'at doesn't mean you can only eat a little bit, meaning eat at least a little bit, because you just made a
like you said, a kazayis. So.
Right, so at least a kazayis, or if you want to eat a whole meal. And then go and say bichas hamazon.
Seemingly, this Yeshemrim is trying to the opinions we just talked about in Ramah and Mishna Berura, saying, okay, and then everyone's satisfied. Then you have a Suda that was Suda Shabbos.
Right.
Kiddush Makil Suda that was Suda Shabbos.
Right. And that's right. And that's what the Ramah adds over here, V'hachi Nahug, and this is what we do. Because as we saw, when we go by according to the first way of doing it, there are so many things that are contentious amongst Paiskim of how you would do it. It's so complicated, and we're uncertain of who to hold by as well, that it brings up so many issues that the better way to do it is the second is this Yesh Emrim, because it simplifies everything, and over here everybody agrees that this is the way that this would make that this is the way you can do it. And you don't come up with the issue of which cup do you bench on first? Do you make kiddush? Do you do the benching cup first? You don't come up with the thing of do you have to eat again? Do you not eat again? So simply what you would do is do not bench at the end of the meal. That was from before Shabbos, and you make kiddush, wash hands, eat challah, and maybe your Shabbos meal if you still have room from the Suda before, and then you take a cup, make benching, make ber piagof, and this way everything is a lot simpler and easier and straightforward. So going into the Mishnah Berura, v'yesh emrim da'af, so we're commenting on this last section. Svira lahu, that he holds, and this is the Rosh, the al karchei tzarich lechol miyad achar kiddush, that for sure you have to say, you're forced to say that you have to eat right after Kiddush, in order for it to be considered a place of a meal. The seuda she'achal mitchila ein miyalus lazeh, right? Like in other words, that's like we said before, that the Rosh says that the seuda that you ate before doesn't help. The canal, like we said before, the kaven dal karchi tzarich lechol, and since you're forced to that you have to eat something. So why do I need a bench in between? What's the point of benching in between? Being that I know that I'm going to eat more. That the law is just like somebody who makes kiddush in the middle of the meal, like we said before in Sif Dalid. That what does he do? What was the case over there? That we were talking about. If somebody was having, he was having the meal beforehand. Fine, and then so we do it like there, and he puts out the cloth, covers the challah and whatever, and he makes kiddush, and then he proceeds as normal. Why? Because you're basically in the middle of a Suda anyway. So the difference in this case is he finished the Suda. That's the difference in this case. It says, so even though you finished the Suda, but you're going to be continuing the Suda. So you're going to be eating again. So you do the same thing. You don't have to bench again. Why bench twice? And here we come to what Ira Hakohen brought up, that eating a little bit. What does it mean? I know kizayis al kopan, like Ira said, at least a kizayis. That's called eichel ma'at. When it says eichel ma'at, it doesn't mean a crumb. It means ma'at means a kizayis. So that it should be considered a place of seuda. This comes from Pri Megadim. And that you have to eat a kazayis in order so that it should be a considered a seuda. Now, just an aside, in the Shartzian he brings down, the Shabbos. That's in order to be Yaitza Seuda. And the reason this is a kazayis, that he's saying kazayis here, is because he's referring to as far as the birchas hamazon part of it, of how much you need to eat to be, that it should be a seuda and it should be birchas hamazon. However, there is another aspect that we need to consider, is that in order to be the shear of a seuda Shabbos, the be'inan shia kebeya, that we need, that it needs to be it needs to be two kazaysim.
An egg's bulk, not an olive's bulk.
Yeah. And see over there. So now we're not going to get into that whole aspect, whatever. But it would be mashma that the best way to do it is not to eat a kazayis, but rather when you're holding at the end of this meal, the best thing to do would be not to bench, make kiddush, make hamaitzi, and eat at least two kazaysim, and then bench. And obviously, at this point, for sure, you would say Ritzei in the benching. So this is the other aspect, that it also absolves us of that complication of do you say the Shabbos insertions or not? Because in this case, since you make kiddush again, since you make kiddush and now you ate again and now you're benching. So according to everybody at this point, you would for sure say the Shabbos insertions. So we also avoid that complication by doing it this way. Lahaitzi as nafshe, to bring his soul out. In this case, meaning to bring. We're not going to get into the whole discussion of nefesh again, but in order to bring himself out of the of all the different arguments and things and debates and uncertainties of the first thing. Hainu, meaning the imyasa kedei rishayna yibol b'sfeikis. If he will do like the first opinion. Right, what was the first opinion? The first opinion was that to use 2 cups, and then 1 cup for benching and 1 cup for kiddush, and then so he's going to come into, if he does it that way, he's going to come into various doubts. Im lahaz kishol Shabbos, right? Do you say Ritzei or do you not say Ritzei? Im yitem mikes birchas hamazon, do you drink from the cup of benching or do you not drink from the cup of the benching? Are you required to eat after the kiddush again, or are you not required to? So even though by holding by this second opinion, you're not fulfilling the requirement of the first opinion, which is that you have to say a benching, that you're required to say birchas hamazon right away, right? So you're not fulfilling that part. Ha'adifa, but this is still better. The im yasa kedei rishayna, because if you will do like the first opinion, yesh chashash bracha she'ein tzricha l'dei shniya. So then you could if you first opinion, you have the possibility, you have the how do you say chashash, the suspicion sort of, but the
doubt
problem. You create the problem.
The worry.
Yeah, the worry of that you're saying a bracha that's unnecessary according to the second opinion. because then you have to say benching 2 times. And like Ira said before, when in doubt, do without. That when it comes to even though benching is what's it called? According to some days is a midiraisa. But
I want to say one thing for sure. When it comes to a hexer, if I'm not sure,
when in doubt, do without. Absolutely.
No, right? No question.
Absolutely.
Just want to make
there. 100%.
Ira, but now that you know I work in this industry, you can always just shoot me a picture and I'll let you know if I know about it.
You're going to be my number one man, because it used to be AC Darren, and he'd say you got to talk to Rabbi Yitkin, but it's going. You just moved to the top, brother.
See that?
I got you, bro.
It pays to know the in people,
Right. It's good to be the king.
Yeah. So therefore, but in either case, even this would apply. Even if we were to say the Birchas Hamazon is midiraisa, is no different. You still don't lechatchila go and make a bracha that's unnecessary. Either way, whether
I got a quick question for both you guys. This is off the record.
Well, this is on YouTube and Facebook, so.
Oh, you'll forget about it. You're right. Never mind. This is going to be off.
After the recording.
After the recording, you'll bring that question.
Thank you. You just saved my tuchus. Thank you.
Anyway, that comes from this thing that you should go by. This thing comes from the Prima Godim. Is that why we go by the second svara? Because it's better to go by, because if you go by the first svara, you come up with all kinds of complications. Whereas if you go by the second svara, you only come across the question of the first svara is requiring you to do benching a second time and you didn't do it. It's better to do it this way and better to not do an additional benching that you were not required to do.
Okay.
Now Zion.
That is
that was Vav. Beautiful.
That was Vav.
Zion.
Now Zion.
Awesome.
Wait, what? Where's my pages are very skinny. I'm trying to get to. Oh, here we go. Okay. Next page. Here we go. Now, even though we said before that if somebody that you're not allowed to eat or drink before Kiddush, if you did eat or drink, you make Kiddush. So you ate or drank, fine. You still go ahead and make Kiddush. The Mishna Berura Lamed Zayin im Ta'am Mekadesh Pirush Kol Ema Senish Niskar, meaning whenever he remembered, Afilu Balayla, even at night, V'lei Neima Sheyamten Ad L'Malcha B'Beiker Kedem Achila Kedei Sheyeh Kiddush Kedem Atima, meaning you shouldn't say, oh wait, you know what, I'll wait till the morning and make the Kiddush then, so that it will be before I eat food. But rather, whenever you remembered it, even at night, you ate, so what's it called? And all of a sudden, oh, wait a second. I just realized I didn't make Kiddush. So you go and you make Kiddush. Umashma ba'paiskim, the love davka tima ba'olma, meaning that not even if you tasted, this is what it implies in the paiskim, is not only if you tasted, and this comes from the Rambam, the love davka tima, feel him over v'achal v'shasa, even if he ate and drank, he had a good gesunten meal. Gamkin tzarich l'kadosh achar kach, he still must make Kiddush after that, immediately at the point where he remembers, being that there is an obligation to make Kiddush. The fact that he ate, or meaning you're supposed to make Kiddush as close to the start of the Shabbos as you're able to, and the fact that you ate or drank does not absolve you of this obligation. So now you're going to wait till the morning, but you still right now have an obligation to make Kiddush as soon as you can. Ches. In the Mechaber, im loy Kiddush balayla, if he did not make Kiddush at night, whether accidentally or purposely even, yesh loy tashlumen l'machar, he can make up for it the next tomorrow, meaning on Shabbos day, kol hayom, the entire day. Mishna Berura.
Do the Ramah first, I think, in this case.
What?
Because I have a lingering question. What kiddush do you make? And then Rama answers it right away. I think just
okay. So he says, the Rama says that he says the entire kiddush of the night milvad vayechulu, besides vayechulu, and I believe that the Mishnah will explain why we don't say vayechulu. So you can make it up. But obviously, just like the kiddush at night has to be in a place of a meal, so too when you're going to make up for the kiddush in a day, right? So you're going to say Savri Maranan Baruch Atah Hashem L'Keinu Melech Beri Gafen. Then you do Baruch Atah Asher Kiddishanu until Mekadesh Shabbos. This, when you do this, it must also be in a place of a meal, just like it has to be at the night, because it's the same obligation. You're fulfilling the obligation from the night.
Just because it's a tashlumin doesn't mean it shouldn't be by Makam.
Kol hayim, the whole day, ad bein hashmashis, until between the suns, meaning what is it, twilight or whatever? What's the
twilight?
word?
Yeah, twilight.
Which it's question. This by the way, it would bring a very into a very interesting halachik discussion, because what happens if you come into the suffix bein hashmashis? You come into a time that it's a doubt whether it is twilight or not, right? So now it would then there would be a difference between the opinion, since you're doing the night kiddush, right?
What's suffix?
So if you remember, there's an opinion that holds that the night kiddush, if there's an opinion that the night kiddush is midayis, is a Torah obligation. So if it's a suffix bein hashmashis, so what would you do? So according to the opinion, I mean, this is, by the way, I didn't see, this is not written anywhere. This is, I should make, it's just me thinking out loud here.
Yeah, but you first want to give a quick, of what's suffix bein hashmashis?
Suffix bein hashmashis, it's a matter of debate as to when this time is, when twilight is, and as there is concerning many of the zmanim, of the times, where it's uncertain, and based on that, there are many different halachic things that we do. In some cases, like for example, where you don't do something till a certain time, like let's say Shema or Tefillin, you would wait till a certain time. But if you did it before that time, since there's one to rely on, so it was counted, or in some cases it's not counted, or so it's a whole thing of how the Jewish times work, and based on that, what you can do. So in this case, he's saying that until the whole day until bein hashmashis, until twilight. Well, there's a debate. What time is that? Is twilight start? When is considered bein hashmashis? So which means it would be a doubt, because a doubt doesn't mean I don't know, but a doubt does mean that there are that some of the rabbinical opinions were of this way, and some of the rabbinical opinions were of that way. That does equal a halachic doubt. Now the question then becomes, what did we say before? We said before that in the case of a doubt, a Torah obligation you would do. A rabbinical obligation you would not do, right? Suffik midiraisa lechumra, suffik midraban la'akil. A Torah obligation is to stringency, and a rabbinical obligation is to leniency. So what I'm wondering now is, now it would become pertinent the what we said before, that there's opinions that hold that kiddush is a Torah obligation, and some hold that it's a rabbinical obligation. So then, according to the opinion that it's a Torah obligation, if you're not sure if it's bein hashmashis, if it's not, if you're not sure, but if the situation is that the time that we're not sure it's bein hashmashis or not, so you would say kiddush, according to the opinion that it's a midrabanan, and certainly if you davened ma'ariv and had in mind to fulfill your Torah obligation, then it would for sure be have that problem. Anyway, that's just a thought. I don't know the answer to that.
Beautiful. The question is,
anyway, continuing. Yeah.
You there?
What's that? You cut out a second.
I was going to ask you about something about twilight, but I had a brain for it. But the other question is, so the app that I use is the Zmanim app. So like it has Mishaker, which is the earliest time you could put tefillin on. Is that a good app?
Well, what I would recommend for us
You would recommend what?
What I would recommend for us is, being that we follow the psak of Chabad. So what I personally do whenever possible is I use the Chabad.org Zmanim, because those go by the Chabad times according to the Alter Rebbe. Now there are some times that I have to go and figure it out based on the other Zmanim charts, because sometimes the other Zmanim charts are more they have more listings for more times. So for example, when you're going to figure out for your specific place, when is the time according to Chabad that would be considered the time before Yom Tov that you should not, that's better not to have a full Seudah. I was not able to find, so I have to do that for the Zmanim for Pittsburgh, for Lubavitch Center, and we had to go into the other Zmanim and then figure it out according to the Alter Rebbe what would that time be, based on Shazmani, is based on etc., based on different things. In other words, based on his Chatzais. Chatzais is the halfway point between what? Between sunrise, between dawn, between what's. So, but in general, most times that you need, almost always, most times that you would need on a regular basis, you would have on the Chabad.org Zmanim.
So I just sent
which, if you Google Zmanim,
I think just check to see what I sent you. Is the Chabad? Yeah. Rabbi Darren is the one who told me, so just check it out.
If Rabbi Darren told you to do something, then just do it.
It's the Zmanim app. It must be connected to the Chabad.
Yeah, then it's whatever Rabbi Darren says. That's good. That's good enough for me. If you don't have access to your app and you have access to a computer or something and you just Zman, then just Google Zmanim Chabad and you'll see.
I never thought about it that way. I use the app. Okay.
But anyway, so now that's not a general instruction to the public necessarily, because if somebody's minhag, it doesn't go by minhagi Chabad, they go by other various minhagim, then they should find out which Zmanim. And I think some of the Zmanim things, it allows you to choose sort of which minhagim you go by. And because there's different things, there's Eidis Yushalayim, there's Eidis Mizrach, there's different. Anyway, but in either case, those who don't follow Minhag Chabad, they should look up. They should these Zmanim charts.
Okay, but let's finish the Mishna because I gotta jump off at 11. I have an 11 o'clock share as well, so I gotta.
So got 3 minutes. And also they have an 11 o'clock share. They'll be jumping on. So
I jump on one of those 2 shares.
Yeah.
Well, one of the shiurim is going to be starting here.
No,
I don't want that share. I want a different share.
My brother gives every Wednesday. My brother gives every Wednesday a online. There's also on Zoom and in person in New York a Lakutei Sichos share from 11 to 11:30 every Wednesday.
Is it Hebrew, English, or non-Hebrew?
In English.
So you'll send me the link right after this.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, but now so Bein Hashmashis, yeah.
So Bein Hashmashis. Now Bein Hashmashis, once it becomes Bein Hashmashis, which the definition of Bein Hashmashis is that it's a time that we're not sure, is it day or is it night yet? Are you able to say Kiddush or you're not able to say Kiddush? Mitzadeh de Peri HaMegadim.
Which that is between Shkia and Seisach Chavim, between sunset and when 3 stars come in.
Right. So Mitzadeh Pri HaMegadim, the Yemer HaNusach Shel Kiddush. So the Pri HaMegadim leans to that you should say Kiddush B'li Hazkaras Shem Umalchos B'Psicha V'Chasima, without saying Hashem's name at the beginning, right? Because how does Kiddush starts? Baruch Atah Hashem. Right, so you just say Baruch Ata Melech Ha'Elam Asher Kedishanu B'Mitzvaysav V'Ratzabanu V'Shabbos Kodshei, etc. Baruch Ata Mekadesh HaShabbos. Right, so you would do it without saying Hashem's name. Ayin Shamsi there.
What time's your share tonight, Mendel?
I think probably close at about 10 because Ma'ariv doesn't finish probably till like 9:45 at least.
Well, you're going to send me the link like you do every Wednesday.
It's the same one as this, same one you're on right now.
I know, but you're going to send me the memo on it.
Yeah, I'll let you know when we're starting. Yeah,
you do every Wednesday. Okay, I got to jump off. I got to take care of something right now.
Okay, absolutely.
See you guys later. Thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Milvad vayichulu, besides for vayichulu, that you don't say the first pasuk vayichulu when you do it in the day. Why? Because the vayichulu is according to some opinions, we are testifying, right? We had that on a different year. We had that whole discussion yesterday of those who hold that this is testifying or not testifying. But in either case, you are talking about the idea that Hashem finished doing the work. He finished doing the work of the week. And so since Hashem finished doing the work at night, not in the day, you would therefore not say vayichulu in the day. And therefore you only say it in the night. But if you're making up the Kiddush, you would skip vayichulu and go straight to Savrim Maranon. What's interesting is another interesting thing would be, would you say the whole Askinu Sudasa? I don't know, because the whole thing, the whole Askinu Sudasa, I mean, I guess you would say Mizmor David, you could probably say, but the Askinu Sudasa, it's talking about, when it talks about Chakat Buchen Kadishin and Zeranpin and all these things, those are Kabbalistic things that actually relate to the time of the day. Shabbos night, Shabbos day, the third Seudah. There are actually things that are, now I don't know if they're specific to the time or they're specific to this Seudah. So if you're saying the Kiddush from the first Seudah, is it still the same time of Chagat Buchen Kadishin or of Zeranpin or is it a different Midah B'chalal? So would you say that's Kiddush Dasa? I don't know, but just again, that's just a question I have no answer to. But it'll be something interesting to ask around to those that actually know their stuff really well. So and see if maybe somebody's come across this or this question has come up or etc. etc. Anywho, that's a good stopping point. We just finished Ches, and God willing, tomorrow we will continue with Siman Tes. All right, Shkeach. Are you saying something? I can't hear if you're saying something or not.
That was probably me coughing, Rabbi.
Saying the window behind you, Mendel, it washes you out. So maybe just pull the curtain.
No, it's like a halo face.
Yeah, but I can't see you. You're in the dark. Can't see your beautiful face.
It's what's it called? It's like, yeah, I see what you're saying. The window behind it blocks the light that's coming from in front of me, and I have to extend the green screen out further or something.
Right. Just pull the curtain. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Talk to you. Get everyone.
All right, Gashet.
Nice to see you, Rabbi.
Good to see you. How are you?
Thank God. Doing well here in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Fantastic. It's online. It's not as far of a drive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I still remember getting the mitzvah tank getting blown all over the road on the way on the way there. It was quite a windy one, if you recall. We had Hanukkah, and Baruch Hashem, it all happened. But it was quite a scene with the snow whipping around everywhere, and it
was wonderful though. People,
you know what? It was definitely something that people don't usually get to see in that area, and then thank God with the